Hello, welcome to Cloud Learning channel. In this module, we will learn how to design a finance management apps using Azure Database for MySQL architecture in Azure Analytics platform. And this architecture securely store data and provide high value analytics over aggregated data using inbuilt security and performance. And I will talk about the architecture, and I will also talk about the list of components and how do we use those services in Azure, and what is each component we use in Azure. And also I will talk about the data flow, the list of steps that involve to design this architecture. And I will use a Lucid chart to design this architecture. So I have a list of components that required to design this architecture. So I collected all the list of components. So let me go over the components. And here, if you see on my screen in the architecture, I mentioned Azure App Services, and I have Azure Database for MySQL servers, and I also have Power BI. Let me just add Power BI title here. So I have Power BI, Azure Database for MySQL servers, Azure App Services. And let me tell you about how this Azure App Service works. Azure App Service enables us to build and host web apps, mobile backends, and RESTful APIs in the programming language. So we can use our own language. We can choose our language, and we can do all this without managing infrastructure. So let me quickly repeat what is this Azure App Service for. Azure App Service enables to build and host web apps, mobile backends, and RESTful APIs in the programming language of your choice without managing infrastructure. And let me talk about the Azure Database for MySQL servers. And it is a relational database service powered by the MySQL Community Edition. The next component, Power BI. Power BI is a collection of software services, apps, and connectors that work together to turn your unrelated sources of data into coherent, visually immersive, and interactive insight. So you can connect to any data source. It could be Azure Database for MySQL servers or any other databases, Azure Synapse or Azure SQL database, Azure SQL Server, any other databases. You can connect from Power BI and access data and visualize data and build dashboards. So let me quickly talk about the overall data flow. So I will talk about step by step. The step one is connect this mobile or browser to Azure App Services. In step one, the presentation tier one is represented by web app, browser or mobile app used by the client or customer. And this is our step one. And step two, connect this to connect Azure App Services and Azure Database for MySQL servers. And step two, so before I move to this app services to MySQL, what we do in step two, Azure App Service hosts backend APIs and business logic that comprise tier two. So let me just say here step two. And step three, Azure Database for MySQL offers a fully managed OSS database for data layer tier three. Let me just say step three. And the step four is Power BI. Power BI supports native connectivity with MySQL to ingest data for analytics. Like I mentioned, you can use any data source. You can visualize data using this Power BI. And this is step four. Step one, step two, step three, step four. So let me quickly repeat the steps involved in this architecture. And here we get all the financial data from multiple sources, and we collect data from different financial institutions. Let me just use this connector. Okay, so now it looks good. The step one, the presentation tier one is represented by the browser and the mobile app used by a customer or clients. In the step two, the Azure App Service hosts backend APIs and business logic that comprise tier two. And step three, we just bring it here. Step three, Azure Database for MySQL offers a fully managed OSS database for the data layer tier three. But if you have any questions on this Azure Database for MySQL Server, how does it work, how you can deploy in Azure, how you can use this MySQL in Azure. So there is a module available in my channel. So that is very good module where I did exercise how to deploy, and I also talked about what are the features available for this service in Azure. And please go to that channel if you want to learn how to design an Azure database for MySQL database using the Azure portal. And the last step here, we use Power BI. It connects to MySQL. So Power BI supports native connectivity with MySQL to ingest data for analytics, where you can apply the filters and you can create a dashboards for your business. And let me put all the steps here so that you can quickly review all the steps one by one. I will say the data flow. I will say data flow. So here I mentioned all the list of steps involved in this data flow. And remember, this architecture shows the flow of data in a common tier 3 application design. And this in step one, the presentation tier one is represented by browser or mobile app used by clients. And tier two, step two, the Azure App Service hosts backend APIs and business logic that comprise tier two. And step three, let's say tier three, the Azure Database for MySQL offers a fully managed OSS database for the data layer tier three. And step four, last step, Power BI supports native connectivity with MySQL to ingest data for analytics. And let me also tell you guys the potential use case where we can use this architecture. This architecture is a simple example of a tier 3 application design on Azure with Power BI for data analytics. So use of case for a finance management application is used to add business context, but this design is applicable for many use cases. If you want to use any other, if you see like, there is a scenario that where you can fit this architecture, you can implement this, because this is not only for finance management apps, but like, if you see any use case that this architecture can fit. If you have any questions on this list of components or about this design or list of steps involved in this architecture, please post all your questions in the comments. If you like this video, please subscribe and share the channel. Thank you.